is about how Allah conceals and covers the shortcomings of people. But when people continue to sin and do not repent, then Allah lifts His covers, which results in negative consequences. The covers of Allah on people cannot be counted. But a person removes these covers when he is seduced by the blessings and is distracted by the hope of long life, so he commits sins. To illustrate that, in a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was asked, how many times will Allah conceal the faults of a believer? The Prophet ﷺ said, more than what can be counted. But if a believer commits a sin, Allah will uncover one of the concealed faults. And if the individual repents, Allah will cover it again with 9 folds of covers. And if he does not repent, only 1 fold will be revealed until no covers are left. Then Allah tells the angels, the children of Adam mark each other and do not forgive each other. So touch him with your wings. So they will do so, and if he repents, all of the covers will be put back. But if he does not repent, the angels will be surprised from him, and Allah will tell them, leave him alone. So they do, and his faults will be revealed. Dear brothers and sisters, Allah likes to conceal shortcomings of people. But if a person continues on committing sins and losing Allah cover, then he will experience consecutive punishments. And he will experience the negative impacts of sins, which include hardships and deprivation of sustenance. The Prophet ﷺ said, nothing increases one's lifespan except righteousness, and nothing repels the divine decree except supplication. And a man may be deprived of provision by a sin that he commits. So a person that commits sins will have a hard time achieving his goals, and doors will be closed for him. So if he seeks anything, he will find it hard to attain. While a person that reveres Allah and has piety, Allah will grant him ease in his affairs. But once this person loses his piety, then Allah will grant him hardship in his affairs. So whoever wants good and blessed sustenance and doors of good that are easy, then he needs to leave sins, because leaving sins brings the best sustenance. Other negative impacts of sins include a loneliness. So a person finds a distance from Allah in his heart that prevents him from enjoying his life. And the darkness in his heart that becomes a darkness in his sight. So he will not be able to be guided to anything good. And the more he sins, the more he's confused. And then he falls into innovations and misguidance without noticing. Dear brothers and sisters, also the disaster and punishment of sins is that they breed other sins until it becomes hard for a person to abandon them. Scholars mention that the punishment of a sin is a consecutive sin, and the reward of a good deed is a consecutive good deed. So if a person commits a sin, he will be seduced to commit another. So his sins will mount until they become part of the person's life and character, and his punishment will multiply. Similarly, doing a good deed will bring other good deeds until obedience becomes the character of that person and his rewards multiply. if sins settle in the heart, the will to repent weakens gradually until it disappears completely, and the person does not repent to Allah, and if he asks for forgiveness, it will only be with the tongue, while the heart is attached to the sins, committing them repeatedly as long as he's capable of doing so. Dear brothers and sisters, another punishment is that a person continues to commit sins until he belittles the sins and they become easy to commit. If a person reaches that point, then it is a sign of ultimate loss. Because when the sin is belittled by a person, Allah magnifies that sin, and Allah leaves that person to himself with no guidance to accumulate more sins. Imam al-Hasan al-Basri said, Allah ignored them because they committed sins and did not repent. So they continued committing sins, and if Allah cared about them, He would have prevented them from sins. And when Allah does not care about an individual, then none will honor him. And as a sign of Allah ignoring an individual is that Allah will make the hearts of that individual heedless. Imam al-Muhasibi, he said, realize that sins lead to heedlessness. And heedlessness leads to hardness of the heart. And hardness of the heart leads to detachment from Allah. And detachment from Allah leads to the hellfire. Only people with living hearts ponder and comprehend these facts, while people with dead hearts, they kill their hearts by attaching them to this life. So if an individual commits sins repeatedly and do not realize the negative consequences of their sins, and people close to them, like their neighbors and friends, did not pay attention to these actions and advise them, then all will be punished by corruption of resources, like water, air, plants, fruits, and homes. Allah revealed in Surah Al-Rum, verse 41, corruption has appeared on land and sea because of the evil which men's hands have done, that He may make them taste a part of that which they have done, in order that they may return. Also rain and food become scarce, and animals will suffer as a result, and end up cursing sinners and blaming them for their conditions, as Imam Mujahid said. Dear brothers and sisters, sins lead to certain humiliation, while obedience of Allah leads to absolute and total honor, as Allah revealed. So let us seek the honor that Allah bestows on His obedient servants, and let us take advantage of these blessed times on the steps of Ramadan to repent, and let us take advantage of supplication with good deeds, and as some of the righteous people used to supplicate, O Allah, honor me with guiding me to your obedience, and do not humiliate me by misguiding me to your disobedience.